Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Vegas Strip 777. This is Angie. Ray is out today, but that's okay because I have my friend Mike here from the Alpha Quorum. So we're going to have some really great conversation here. We were just toying around with a couple of subjects and we were thinking about the battle of the sexes. So feel free to call in at 702-608-3259 and start chiming in and see what you think. But first, Mike, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. I'm kind of your plan B guest tonight. I know that you had Brad Singletary, one of the guys who we have on our Alpha Quorum project, who was supposed to be here and couldn't make it tonight. And I'm happy to represent.
Oh, totally. I think I've actually listened to your show. It's a podcast, and there's four of you, right? And that's why it's a quorum.
Yeah.
And I reached out to Brad because I know him, and I'm like, you know what? I got to have you on the show. So to have any four of you is like a huge, like tremendous honor.
Good.
So tell us about the show, Alpha Quorum. Like, what is it about? So that way people can kind of get to know you and the show a little bit.
Okay, so Alpha Quorum, we developed this idea. Brad Singletary, one of our founders, and then another guy, Derek Johnson. Those two guys were the real pioneers of this, and they created this little format. And the concept or the idea was just to create a place like this, an online presence where dudes can get together and maybe socialize or maybe plan opportunities to meet up or just dialogue with each other, and specifically around this show, this Alpha Quorum podcast show that we do. So they started it, the two of them, and they, I think, did 5. And then during those early days, Brad and I have known each other 12, 13 years or so. And we were having tacos one day, and he was telling me about it, and he was kind of filling me in. And I hadn't heard about it. We were discussing it. He was outlining it to me, and I was very fascinated by it. And I maybe threw out a couple of ideas, and he said, that's something maybe you should discuss with us on the air. Like, come and do this with us, be a part of this process, this program with us. And so it just sort of was an invitation out of the blue. Had no idea that he was even doing this thing. Over tacos, we kind of added me in, and then we have another mutual friend who's on the show, Jeremy Levitt. He's also a therapist, and so one of us suggested, why don't we loop Jeremy in as well? So at, I think, show number 6 is where me and Jeremy came on board. So 2 became 4, and that was our number 6 was that first group. And then I think that really is where we formed a quorum. So quorum is just a word that means a group, right? So we had 4 there, and then we have another guy, Tyler Hunt, that we sort of bring in. He's our foil. He's kind of like our intern. He's a young guy. He's 20, 21, 22, something like that. And so we have him. We might throw questions at him sometimes that we'd like him to talk about the point of view of like a younger guy. And so I think we kind of have 5 now. And we just recorded last night, and that's probably number, I think, 18 or 19. Wow. And so we're really trying to get this content out. We're trying to have these conversations as often. We try to do them weekly. So we've got this show that we do with almost a weekly release. And then we have our Facebook page. And we also do live, I don't know if live is the right way to say it, but we have these meetups. We call them Man-Richment or Homie Home Evening. And so that was an idea that I developed maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And it was the thought behind that was to have like a DIY car show, gun show, barbecue in someone's backyard. Find somebody that has a nice backyard, get a bunch of dudes together, and just have a relaxing evening where guys can look at things and talk about things that are very unique and specific to them. Maybe a no-holds-barred atmosphere, but super casual, no cost. I don't charge any money for these. Invariably, though, people will put money in my pockets, and so it tends to be a break-even thing. But the idea is so little of a man's life is casual and relaxed and free because he's got his work friends. So if you break that down, if you break a guy's life down, he's typically got his work friends. And so those might be superficial relationships, but they're also kind of work-driven. He might have some hunting buddies. He might have some football buddies, watching sports buddies. So men tend to not really group together in groups that don't revolve around some like project or a topic. Mm-hmm. And then when they do, they just are kind of driven only by that topic. Like that's all the conversation's about. They really stick to that. So we wanted to kind of create this event that was free of any of that. Guys can just show up, they can form little groups, they can talk, and we kind of try to chum that. We try to make it as if we try to present it as an atmosphere that we want you to be super chill, super relaxed. And there's certain things that men are attracted by: guns, cars, good food, meat. We don't have any vegetables. You know, I write up these little essays to sort of sell this, and I say, you know, you're gonna eat off a piece of junk lumber with your hands. It's like this really minimalist kind of dude experience, and they've been really well received, and we've had really good turnout, really good feedback. We do 3 a year. We do Chuck Norris's birthday in February. We do one right before Father's Day, and then we do another one in November, kind of for that whole Movember thing. And so we've been doing 3 of these a year, and they just are more and more fun each time.
And so, you know, what it sounds is like you have a very high testosterone kind of thing going on, right? So how do the women receive that? Have you had any feedback from women and what they think, or do you even care?
Yeah, interesting. So the last one was ultra high testosterone. No, the one before. So our last one, kind of our main event was, we had a Pinewood Derby race, was like a no rules Pinewood Derby. So little Boy Scouts do Pinewood Derby, and there's all these regulations regarding the cars, the weight, all these things. We did sort of like this no holds barred, anything goes Pinewood Derby crash up race. It was a good time. The one before that, me and another guy, we bought some junk cars. We put them out in the desert. We know a guy that has a bulldozer, like a straight up construction mega bulldozer. We made some little berm ramps over the cars, and guys brought motorcycles and Jeeps, and we did a monster truck show. Like, we did our own monster truck rally, driving these cars, Jeeps, over these crushed junk cars, jumped them with motorcycles. It was like a full-on free-for-all. That was like pure testosterone, full-time. That was our high water mark. We haven't done anything quite as spectacular as that. As far as the women go, like, I think that the general idea is wives like it when their husbands go and do, when they fellowship with other guys, when dudes go and hang out with each other. And there might be something a little deeper than just beer night at John's house and the game's on. Because that kind of event, I think, has maybe a limited outcome. You kind of know, like, if I'm going to try to play the perspective of a wife, I kind of know how that's probably going to go. I know what they're going to talk about. I know what that event's going to be like. What I think we're trying to do is create an event where there's conversation. It's legit. It's real. It's as open as you want it to be. We're trying to attract in guys with our shtick, right? And that's cars, guns, food. Once we are together, then it'll turn into what it'll turn into. It might look different than game night over at, your bro's house. Or it might not. Maybe those events are similar to what ours are, but I tend to think not. So the feedback I'm getting from wives is they do want their husbands to go and to be in an event, kind of a scheduled event that's deeper, that might end up being a deeper level experience than something that's less structured in that way.
No, and I love that. And one of the things we were talking about before we came on the show, and just so you know, I'm going to be playing devil's advocate because I get a lot of like the female perspective on things like this. I personally love it, and I find it fascinating. And I think that right now there's a huge like women's empowerment movement.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. But I also think that by the same token, we're leaving our men behind. And, what we were talking about and what I was explaining to you, I feel that some of us women don't know what we want. Therefore, we're confusing our men, right? Like, we're the ones like, what I was saying is we say we want that warm and fuzzy, sensitive guy. And then we get the teddy bear and we're like, oh, get the heck away from me. You're too mushy. You're too needy. Go away.
Yeah.
And so then these guys, like, it's been my experience that most men want to please their woman and support their woman in any way that they can, right? That's like one of their goals. And correct me if I'm wrong, but then it's us who will emasculate them because it's like we don't allow them to be. It's like we want things to be done in a certain way, but we don't communicate that, for one, or that's not within their scope. One of the things we were talking about, it's like for me on a personal level, I don't care if you delegate. If I'm saying to you, hey, honey, I need my car fixed, like the oil needs to get changed again or whatever, whether it's you doing it or you taking it to get done, you're still handling it, right? So that works for me. But there are some women that are like, no, why aren't you doing it with your own two hands? And so it's just really opening up, I think, both genders, and really opening up that communication, and like, what is it that you want on both ends?
Yeah, that's a lot. There's a
It
lot
is.
there.
Yeah.
So some of the things I thought about when you were going through that, there is a women's empowerment movement, and I'm for it too, because I think douchebags have had free reign for too long. So there is a really, really dumb movement that's happened. It's this him too thing. It's a false paradigm. It's totally a joke. Everything about it is built on a defensive principle. It's saying, I'm gonna put it in my own words. It's a bunch of douchebags who are saying, what? We don't get free reign anymore. We don't have full authority, carte blanche. You are gonna seize some of our power. You're gonna take away you're gonna cut our douchebag license in half. And so now you're gonna put us in check. They're freaking out. They're losing their shit. Mm-hmm. And they should. So go, girl, go. Load your guns and come after us. So all of those guys, they all need to be brought down. They need to be exposed. They need to be brought down. And more power to any woman who feels that that's her mission and calling. And I support that 100%. To the men who are gentlemen, who have never... A gentleman looks at that and says, none of that, he's an ally, firstly, I think. And then he also looks at that and says, how can I lead these douchebags? Like, these are boy men, right? They're childish. They don't respect women. I don't think they respect themselves. I don't think they know how to treat. They don't understand the power dynamic. They don't understand what it means to be somebody in authority, perceived authority often, and how that works in a dynamic where they're in that superior position and they're interfacing with other people. There's just so much education, I think, that needs to happen. Men need to teach other men. When douchebags teach douchebags, then you have a generation of that, and that's coming to a close. So what guys like me and Brad and Jeremy and Derek, what we feel like we're trying to do is create I don't know, it's not a movement, but we're just trying to create an education platform where we can blow a dog whistle that specifically is heard by a specific audience, men, and maybe even specific men, that we want to say, we're not propping ourselves up here and saying we have all the answers and we know what we're doing. Just right. Follow us. Just get in line. Your lives will be amazing. All problems solved. Walk behind us. Your life's gonna be great. What we do think we want to do is, we think our mission is first of all, we'll show you our scars. We'll show you where we're broke up. I hate the word vulnerable. I'd love somebody to suggest a new word for that, but I'll just use it here because I don't have a new one yet. We'll show you that we are willing to risk, willing to be vulnerable. Take our mask off, stop pretending, stop posing, stop gesturing, so that you're just as scared about your life as I am, and all of us are. Let's just knock it off. Let's just stop. Let's do this together. So one of the other things you said is, and stop if you have any questions or you want to jump in or bump in, just like.
Yeah, you're just so into it. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to let you flow.
Okay.
Go ahead. I will.
I do think I'm into it because I think this is super important.
I really do agree.
Super important for guys.
And something that you did say is like, as far as like the gap, right? So if douchebags are teaching douchebags, so we have this generational douchebag breeding, so to speak, right? Like that's kind of what I'm getting. And what you guys are trying to do is just interrupt that.
Yeah.
You are the interruption to what has been the norm.
Yeah.
Teaching men the difference between being assertive and aggressive in a space that it's a man space, right? Because especially right now, being single moms is kind of, a big, I forget the number, but statistically it's a high, thing. And so men are also missing out on the male role models. And so even though you may have an adult man body,
Yes.
your mind, your upbringing, everything that you've learned is still childlike
Yes.
because it's missing that
Yes.
that piece. So it feels like you guys are like filling in that gap, if I'm understanding correctly.
I think you're spot on. So what we see a lot, Brad and Jeremy, they're professional therapists. So what I do, my CV is I work with guys in 12-step programs. So I'm an addiction coach, mentor, sponsor, and so many of the guys, it's this chronic cycle that I see. They are very childlike, very developmentally. I don't want to use the word immature because that's too strong, but they just aren't fully, let me say it this way. They're not fully developed yet. And so they are misfiring.
Mm-hmm.
They have all of the attributes. They have all of the potential to be a very, very high quality gentleman, a high quality man, right? It's all there. They may lack, there's things that they might lack. They may lack resources. They may lack training, understanding. They may not fully understand what it means to care for a loved one, to care for a woman, to be loyal to her, to nurture this relationship that they're in. They don't know how to be responsible for themselves, for their own emotions. They don't understand what it's like to put themselves in check. We use a catchphrase, they just don't know what it is to be a grown-ass man.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we think we're doing, what I think I'm doing anyway, what I think our mission is to help men develop wherever they're at in this continuum. And there are guys probably more evolved than us. Let us learn from you ultimately how to be a grown-ass man. And we're all going to go on that journey together. We're all at different points on that. And we do this in a sort of a non-shame, non-judgmental way. And that's one of the beauties of the 12-step model is 12-step receives anybody in any condition. You come in, I was at a 12, so alcohol isn't quite my thing, but I love going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. I can't go to enough AA meetings. Love them. They're mind-blowing. Come with me to one. They're astonishingly awesome.
Okay.
I'm at this AA meeting. This guy comes in late. He's got like no joke, glass in his face, a bandage on his arm. He'd been in a car wreck. I don't know that he said the day before. In my memory, it seemed like last night I was in this car wreck. Hungover. You could tell this guy was just trashed and thrashed. Clearly not on the wagon, but knew that he needed to come in and fellowship and brotherhood with these guys, that this was the place of safety that he could go. This was the refuge that he could go. And they would receive him in whatever condition. And clearly he was not in good condition. This guy's not in good shape. And not really following the ideals or the principles of the program. But he knew that he would go there and be loved and received. And he was loved on. Like as soon as the meeting was over, there was a long line of dudes waiting to shake his hand and hug him and tell him they love him. This is sort of a dynamic that's happening out there in the world that, to me, to my experience, to my sensibilities, is exactly what can and should be happening sort of in the men's zone. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's happening much anywhere else outside of sort of these little groups. And so all we're trying to do is teach this, popularize this, make this legit, normalize it, make this brotherhood between men so normal and natural that if you don't have that, then you feel like like I need to get back to that. So you go to a church group or you go to some other fellowship that's posing like, hey, we're just like that. You can smell that. And,
right.
And you say, this isn't authentic, this isn't real, this isn't deep, this is superficial. And so you can then, as a grown-ass man, work within that structure to develop it to those better levels, those higher levels. And so we're just ultimately, at the end of the day, again, I think we're teachers, I think we're leaders, I think we want to be role models, and we want to push out this dynamic that being a man and being in fellowship and brotherhood with men doesn't have to look, it's not the Oprah show with beards. It's a completely different dynamic. And we're trying to teach that.
And actually what's coming to mind for me, are you familiar with the red tent?
No.
Okay, so this is an indigenous practice. Back in the day, anytime a woman would get her menstrual period, she would be taken to a tent.
Okay.
And that's why it was called the red tent. And she would actually be cared for, but that was also where the elders would provide their wisdom and pass down their wisdom to these young women.
Interesting.
And this would happen, throughout their lives, and there were different roles, right, and different lessons being taught. But it was really just this gathering of women and sharing their wisdom and sharing their experiences, and that's really how the woman was like gathered around. And every time somebody needed support, they would all be there.
Go to the red tent.
Right. But I do feel that I can't actually think. I'm trying to rack my brain, and I can't think of any practice like this for men. Usually men were always sent out. It's either go hunt, go to war, go gather, or, go provide. It was go, get out. And it's you suck it up, right? Like show no emotion. There is no union. There is no communion. There's nothing. It's you. And so I think that also men were taught that the weight of the world is on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And when you say vulnerable, for me, it's like really connection, right? Like there's a disconnect there because men are taught to go out there and just do alone and come back and provide. And so it's all me. It's only me. Everything relies on me. So it's very isolating. It's a very isolating type of mentality. And whereas with women, we always have our tribes.
Yep.
No matter what the setting is. And we hear it in so many different ways, right? Girls' night out. It's like goddesses, sisterhood, all of this, even before the whole women's empowerment. It's like we always did gather, even the women gathering in the kitchen. That was still a way for us to congregate and have that fellowship with other women,
Yeah.
and be able to share of ourselves. But men are always, separated.
Yeah.
And so I love that. It's like, to me, it's like it is the connection. It's like the missing piece of, especially now in society where we don't have to go out and literally go and hunt, because we need to. Like now it's more of a sport. It's more of a hobby. It's something that is fulfilling, but it's not a need. So there's like, how do you fill those gaps? How do you, bridge those two worlds of man, go be a man, and then also be here, present, and with me.
Yeah. So fascinating. I'm going to look this red tent. One of the things that anthropology teaches us about the role of masculinity, the role of men within tribal society. So Homo sapiens, 300,000 years, we've been a distinct species on this earth. In primitive tribal societies, I don't know about the red tent, but what I do know about those is that those were groups of maybe 100, 130, 150 members. In fact, now it's well understood that any of us, you or me, we can only really remember the names and stories and details of about 100 people. If we go beyond that, it's very difficult. It's a kind of a well understood thing that about 100 people is about all we can really have a relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's obviously no surprise that our species developed in groups of about 100. The men had a group within the group. So there was a tribe within the tribe. We had our broader tribe, but then we had a male tribe. And so this is something that I'm fascinated by and really have gone down the rabbit hole of this. So the men, when they within the tribe felt that there was security and safety for the elders and the women and the children, the men would go out and would do some of the things you said. So they would go hunt, or they would go look at different lands. They would have adventures, or they would just go off and have sport, different things. There was a lot of culture within that tribe. So there were power structures. So let's break something down. If they were going to go off and hunt, there would be the planning, the pre-plan. There's toys, right? So the weapons, and there's comparison and competition. Who's laughing, like your spear, and competition, as men do. So these are some of those dynamics. Then there would be the planning. So men, we love to sit down and look at a map and daydream and imagine what that's going to be, what that adventure is going to entail, and how we can prepare physically, with our equipment, temporally, my body, whatever. And then we go on the adventure, we execute. And so when we do that, there's danger, there's adrenaline, there's competition. These are all things that are in testosterone. So men are living fully and completely in their chemicals. All of these testosterone markers, all of these things are fully alive and fully developed, fully awake. Then we do the adventure. One of us gets hurt. We have to deal with that. We adapt, the weather, all of these things. And so men are problem solvers. We're doing that. It's over. We come back. We bring our sport or game, whatever, to the tribe. We feel like we're providing. We feel like we've fulfilled a needed role. Then we, in our off times, we like laugh and have great memories about those experiences. And we can't wait to go on the next one. So this tribe within a tribe, this is something that's always been. In modern Western civilization, we have some men have somehow disbanded and disrupted that tribe. And we're now, a modern Western man, for the first time in the arc of human history, is living isolated and alone. Never before have men, and I don't mean men as the species, humans, but I mean men, males, never before have males lived alone in isolated non-tribes. We're now in like uncharted biological territory. So it's no surprise to me when you open up the newspaper the first time in the morning, or your CNN on the phone or whatever it is now, and there's a mass shooting. It is almost always exclusively a man who is isolated. So if you read his backstory, really there is a very common arc of this. He is a man. He is alone. He is isolated. His friends, whatever friends he has, say that he was a loner. He had no group. He had no tribe. So when a man doesn't feel like he's in a tribe, he feels he does not have the emotional development that he needs to get and will get and can get when he's in a tribe, when he's with his other brothers.
I actually love that. But we do have a call. Who is it? Oh,
this is Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
It's going good. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Jeremy Levitt.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
What's up, my dude?
I'm doing awesome. I'm just excited you're there representing, man. I'm just sad I couldn't be there with you, but you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks.
Well, thanks for calling, Jeremy. So what you got for
Yeah.
us? I see that there were some comments here, and actually, Kara was suggesting transparent versus vulnerable. But I know,
like
Jeremy, you were saying feedback. Like a lot of women like this. They're excited about what you guys are up to.
Yeah, I'm finding as I'm talking to women in my office and referring them or asking for their feedback on the podcast, many women are sending their men right to it. They see a lot of value in it, especially there's a couple episodes they're really resonating with, the Be a Grown Ass Man and the sex episode. They're almost like holding their husband's ear to the speaker to try to get it through their thick skulls. But lots of feedback from women. They love the idea that men need to find that camaraderie and that structure of manliness within a community. Just because I think it betters not only the men as an individual, but it strengthens and bonds the couple, and it strengthens and creates a more formidable family, I guess is the best way to put that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And our biology, here's the thing, our biology demands it. The DNA inside of a man almost requires him and drives him to be in like this fellowship with other men. That has somehow eroded away. Western society has taken that away. And what you had said earlier, I think, is really now the norm. Like, big boys don't cry, stand alone, you need to provide. This is like a solo experience. And that is that's a cultural lie. That does not jive with our biology. That does not jive with anthropology. That is a whole made-up paradigm that is poisonous. And I think that the statistics now, when you look at all of the markers that affect the psychological markers that affect men, they are trending down precipitously, like dangerously down. And again, maybe to go back to that, like really no joke, when you open up the paper, it used to be there would be this okay, so if there's some sort of mass tragedy, you would almost expect, because of the messaging that might be from government officials, specific government officials, that's I'm using coded veil language there, very carefully word choices, that it's going to be a immigrant, it's going to be a Muslim, there's some code words, right, some buzzwords. It's not that guy. That's not the guy who's doing it. It's a white guy who is a loner. He's totally isolated. He has no tribe. He has no brotherhood. He has no fellowship. He feels like he is outside of his community, and he turns on that community in rage. It's horrific. We don't think we're gonna solve any of this, but if there's only one guy that we can reach and help improve his life, then we've done our job.
And one of the things that I really like about this is, and I'm not gonna lie, because when Brad first told me about it, I'm like, I don't know why. Instantly, I heard like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, right? Like, a bunch of Al Bundys getting together and, just plotting against women.
Yeah, like dudes sitting around just trashing on chicks.
Right. And I know Brad and I love him, and I knew that he wasn't that guy, but it was just a joke that he and I shared. And but it sounds like this is, something that men actually need, and women like should encourage it. Definitely, because it's a safe space for men to go and bond and be, and just allow them, to grow and share of themselves in a way that only you can with other men.
With each other.
Right.
And Jeremy, you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
So you are then experiencing where wives, women are telling you they want their husbands to get plugged into this for those same reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they want their men, because I think women know this better than we do, that we need that community. And I think Angie had mentioned that earlier, like the whole sisterhood, like the brotherhood's kind of been lacking. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is of our own making, right? We go to work, we think we're providing and protecting and presiding for our family by spending 14 to 16 hours a day at the office, but really we're not only destroying ourselves, our families are being weakened and destroyed at the same time. And so finding some time, not only to remove ourselves from the things that are limiting us, but finding some time for some things that are fulfilling both to us as individuals and our community. I think our women know we need it at their core. And that's why so many women I talk to are so thrilled about the Alpha Quorum. They are so excited about it, because maybe it's just speaking to something that they've known all along and just didn't quite know how to say it.
No, and I'm even thinking it for, like, I have 2 sons, right? Like, this is something that I would love my sons to engage in, because again, from a woman's perspective, as much as we want to nurture and help and support and love up on our men, whatever that relationship looks like, there's some things that we as women just don't understand. Much like with men, there's a lot of things that you guys don't get about us, which is why it's totally okay. And I think that we as women also feel a bit insecure when we hear, oh, what, you guys are going to get together and what's that about? Like, it's like, that insecurity gets a little triggered, because it's like, okay, what are you guys going to do? Don't take my man away from me. But really, it's like, no, women, it's okay to let them go, and have that safe space, have them, go and bond and be in that fellowship, and then come back and enjoy them as your husband or as your son or whatever relationship it is.
Yeah.
But really allowing men to be men in any capacity, and so it's like, and again, like, and actually, Kara, and thank you so much, guys, for your comments. I'll try to keep up with most of them, but and keep them coming. So Kara was like, they go to war, they create bonds, come home and miss the brotherhood of it all. Men need this war or not on many deep levels. So it's like women are getting that there is a need for men to be able to bond and be with one another and just, yeah, So when it comes to a woman's perspective, I'm all for it.
So to speak to that point really quick, so there's a lot of research that says that PTSD really revolves around this separation of this bond that these men had. So maybe to drop back really quickly, these caveman guys, they go out and they have these experiences that they're decompressing, they're processing their lives with each other, they're comparing their lives with each other, and they're training and building each other, right? They're all elevating. When men in the military are deployed, that's almost a tribe that they're in. They're experiencing those same dynamics. They feel alive, they feel completely connected with each other, and their mission is not for this broader ideological purpose. Their mission is, you're alive, I'm alive, we're going to stay alive together. I got you, you got me. That activates so many things deep within the programming of the male species, of the male, being man as in species, but you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So when a guy is in his military unit, often he will report that he has never felt more alive, more awake, more in tune, more just crackling with energy. When he's then deactivated, he comes back home, that brotherhood's gone, he's separated, and he is now lost. He feels emotionally devastated. He doesn't know who to turn to. And so this phenomenon of PTSD probably revolves so much around the loss of that. And so we understand that. Like the guys, us in the Alpha Quorum, we get that. We understand that. And so we want to create these bonds that if you've never experienced it, you don't know what you don't have. And we want to sweep you up in that. We want to get you to some of our events through, crushing cars and guns. And so we kind of use that to get you to attend. But once you're there, maybe we will say something, or that something will happen that will set this little earworm, and you will then feel these feelings of this is a brotherhood. This is something I need. Like it awakens something sort of primal and primitive in them.
Jeremy, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I thought you were like wanting to say something earlier.
So I wanted to give a little bit more of some validation to Mike's statement there about PTSD in the military. Israel has one of the lowest rates of PTSD in the world, and because when they military service is required there, and when they create their units, they create units from neighborhoods, and so you go to war with these men you've grown up with. And then when you go home, you're going back to the neighborhood with these same men. And so there's something to that. The fact that they've created this bond their entire lives. They go to war with these guys, and they come home with these guys, for those lucky enough to come home. And the bond is there, and they have the lowest rates of PTSD of any military service in the world. And then as far as, the getting the guys together, I'll speak to what Mike said. If you are searching for a connection in your life, come hang out with us. You guys do not know what connection feels like. Come hang out with us. There's that level of vulnerability there where we can, bust your balls 1 minute and give you a hug and tell you we love you the next minute. Like, you guys are amazing. I know half of you don't realize that yet, but come hang out with us, learn who you are, and just really fall into that level of comfort that really, I think, only hanging out with other dudes can afford.
And actually, I think this is a great segue on how do we find you guys? Like, where is hang out with us? Where is the hangout? How do we get a hold of you? Or, where do we send our men to?
Yeah, so we just do the social stuff. So we're on Facebook, Alpha Quorum. I think we have an Instagram page, and then we have a website, alphaquorum.com. So we're constantly creating content. And something else too we're trying to develop and get off the ground after the first of the year is some sort of dude school program. So we want to have events, it's like an hour long thing, maybe 2 hours, and it's going to revolve around some key components. Good food, we'll have good grub there, and then maybe we teach some man skills, some like dude skills, how to sharpen an axe with a file, how to fix stuff, just how to get shit done, things, practical things, hands-on things that may or may not be, you may not even understand how to do that. Maybe you didn't have a dad to guide you and lead you into some of those things, but just those manly arts, right? I have a personal belief that that's just sort of like being lost, being a man of, ultimately we're trying to do is create men of character. We're trying to develop men. We're trying to, guide boy men and to become grown-ass men, right? So that's kind of our main purpose. But we'd also like to teach those grown-ass men how to fix shit, how to do things, how to be a resource, right? How to use a tool, but how to be a tool. And I don't mean that in the derogatory way, but how to be a tool, how to be a resource in your community. Why every man should be the guy that everyone can count on, everyone can call on. There is a old-fashioned sense of values that maybe our grandfathers had, our fathers might have had, and I tend to not see that. I tend to generally, in men, not see men that are evolved and developed sort of as the Steve McQueen kind of guy or the Paul Newman kind of guy. Like, Can you be classy? Can you be sophisticated? Can you fix things? Are you a Renaissance man? Like, are you a full-rounded, fully developed human man? I just don't see a lot of that. And so again, these are the things we're trying to develop and create.
And although on the one hand, I'm like, I'm loving this concept, but how do you deal with women, girls who want to also learn how to be tools and learn how to do these man stuff? Like, how do you address that?
We don't. No, you'll have to do that for us.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, like, I mean, because
I think that's a thing, but that's not my audience, and so I don't know how to. I have no answer to that.
No, that's fair. And I like that because it's very clean. Because here's the thing, the way that I see it is like, I go to the dentist for my teeth. It's very clear that I'm not going to go to
they do.
Right. And so I'm not going to go to the dentist to get my hair done.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys had that clarity so that the audience also understands that this is not for, girls or women who may be very much skilled in these things and maybe adapt to these things. But no, this is not for you.
Yeah.
This is for guys. And, you get to hang out with the dudes and, that's how it goes. And it's totally fine. So let me just ask a random, hey, Marco.
What's up?
Been paying attention?
A lot.
Right?
Yep.
Like, okay, so pop quiz. What do you think?
I know, well, man, I'm all for it. Trust me, I'm as manly as it gets. No, I'm kidding. No, I think you guys are doing a really good thing because coincidentally enough, last time I was here and I stepped in and I took over the board, we talked about a couple things, talked about dudes and stuff like that, and I made a comment which I brought up a word which was machismo, and they looked at me like, what does that mean? And it baffled me that they didn't know.
Was it an audience of other dudes or who?
No. We're in this same scenario. It was just a different topic. It just, for some reason, we ramble about 1,000 things.
Okay.
But we came up to the subject where, why do guys, are guys more open nowadays, or are we closed off, relationship wise, or why is this conflict between guys to share their feelings? And I just kind of said that, growing up, and especially in my Mexican culture, it's very, you're a man and you go to work and you don't talk to other dudes. You
Machismo.
just kinda, exactly.
Yeah,
and
I get it.
And I kind of explained it, and it just baffled me that, the girls didn't know. They just didn't know what this meant.
They didn't know that there was this unspoken, understood like culture within.
Exactly. And I grew up, man, since I was 3. Don't play with dolls. Don't do this, don't do that. But it's not even to that extreme. It's just that we get enclosed so much that I feel like it just grows to this, it grows to just, you can't open up and you just blind yourself from what you can do, and you blind yourself. And I feel like you guys are still providing that, kind of pride and still providing that brotherhood, but you're also showing the love, and you're also showing the ability to grow and the ability to be a better person. And I feel like that's what you guys are bringing to this. And I was scrolling down your page and I was looking at all these things and I got really interested. So I might be checking out one of your events.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested. But my question to you mainly would be, how do you see this youth growing? I know you're hitting probably older gentlemen, or I don't know what your target market might be, but what do you see out of this youth? Millennials always get this bad rep, and I'm one of them. So I want to know how that runs through you guys.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
I know you said you had a youngster, right? You guys had a young guy.
Yeah, so we got a guy who's kind of your age. How old are you, 25?
I'm 25. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So men have always, in all social groups, older men teach the skills of the tribe and the group to the younger men. And they're multi-generational. And so what you have now is this disconnect between the generations. Older men don't hang with younger men and vice versa. We have this ageism within masculinity that is a completely dysfunctional thing to have happened. And I don't know who wrote down in some book somewhere and said, from now on, from today forward, old dudes, young dudes, middle dudes, they just all break off and do their own thing.
Right.
And even more than do their own thing, they do their own solo thing, right? They don't just do their own ageist thing. They do their individual machismo thing.
Right.
Whoever the hell that was, F that guy.
That's right. That's what I say.
So what I think, or what we would love to develop here, we just want to go back. I think all we're doing, I don't think we're inventing one thing.
Right.
There's not one thing that we have sat down and have invented
Right.
All we're doing is using the wisdom of the elders,
Right.
and we're just using it now.
Right.
Nothing is new. This is not groundbreaking. It's not revolutionary. And so maybe, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, because I don't know that I have a very good answer other than to say this. The secret is in the wisdom of the ancients,
Right.
and the elders. And so I think that if the wise men of a tribe teach the young men of the tribe, that is a healthy tribe.
Right.
And I don't think our boys, our millennials and our young boys now,
Right.
are being taught by elders.
And I feel like our generation is kind of closing off in a way, like you said. We're finding ways to separate and distance ourselves, and I feel like we shouldn't. These type of events and all these groups, we should be learning from these people. But at times, I feel like we just kind of separate ourselves, thinking that we're from two different worlds. That you
can't relate.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't relate. I can't relate.
Yep.
But in reality, I look back and I look at the things that I'm doing, and my dad did them. My grandfather did them. He raised a family. He was looking for work. He was trying to make sure that, he was protective over his family and all this. So I feel like you're right. You're right. There should be more connection between the ageism, and the ageism shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's definitely one of those things that I hope going to your events I can get a little more comfortable with, and I could definitely learn. That'll definitely be cool.
But and you also brought up a great point about the machismo, because that's a culturally ingrained thing where, and it's funny because when I deal with some of my teens and some of my youth, they don't even know they have it until it shows. It's like next thing you know, they turn 22, 23, they're now out in the world, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, it hits hard, trust me.
Right. It just it hits them. They're like, oh, I'm not like this, I'm not like that, and suddenly it's like, it totally sets them off, for some.
Right.
And how do you guys, or have you guys dealt with this? Because I know you guys are fairly new and starting up, but do you have any idea how to handle that? How do you support somebody who's discovering that they have this belief system so ingrained in them that, they just, how to help them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my personal life, I found that my greatest growths come from unlearning things. So it's less about learning how to do a thing in a new way, and more about deconstructing this package of ideas, concept, philosophies, paradigms that I'm handed through all kinds of cultures. So I grew up in a particular family, on a particular street. We had a particular religion, or we didn't have a particular religion. There's all of these dynamics. There's 1,000 moving pieces that go into you or me and our development.
Right. And
so I once thought, after a series of personal failures, I just need to learn more. I need to be better. So here's I put all this pressure on myself. I need to be better. I need to level up. So I remember being in this state of dramatic disintegration.
Oh,
where
that's me right now.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right, man. So I remember thinking in this death spiral of just bad choices and failed attempts at all kinds of just misery. Thinking, okay, I need to work my way out of this. I need to learn more, do more, be more, harder, faster, stronger.
Right.
That's my problem. The reason I got into this is because I wasn't doing enough. And I tried that for a little while, and it not only did it not feel right, but it didn't work, and it felt completely wrong. And I had some sort of breakthrough, through seeing a great therapist that helped save my life, and some very specific men who sort of came on board with me at that time. And one of the greatest things, the greatest assets that I have in my life was unlearning the nonsense cultural programming that I was given, well-intendedly,
Right.
through church, family, all kinds of different sources, all in good faith. I don't feel like anybody in my religion set out and intended to booby trap me or put pitfalls, speed traps, speed
Right.
bumps in my way. I don't feel like anybody in education or in my family set out to
make you fail. No one said it for you to fail.
Nobody thought, how are we going to grand scheme this great catastrophe in this dude's life? That didn't happen.
Right.
They all did their best, their level best. I'm the one who then took, piece A and piece B, all these little components, and I created in my own head my own universe that I was the master and commander of, and it completely imploded. That's on me. So when I kind of had this grand epiphany, I guess, what I realized is like, I got here through nonsense, through my own nonsense thinking I was right, thinking I was doing the right thing, and all kinds of categories. And I just turned it off. Like I visualized, like, I'm just going to turn off all these dials of all these voices, of all these messengers giving me all these messages. I'm going to turn all that off. And I'm going to then simplify everything and just start from some baseline. And I happen to be a believer. I happen to believe in, this guy called Jesus. I happen to find a ton of value in the simplicity of his message, disassociated from religion.
Right.
Had no interest in using a religion or a religious paradigm to build off of. So when I just sort of de-escalated to baseline zero, I thought, how am I going to rebuild from what? Into what? From what? And I had a very strong sense, like, I'm just going to baseline it at this person of Jesus and use that as my all the role modeling I need. I'm going to start there and unlearned everything.
Right.
And just simply started walking towards these really, really, really fundamental baseline values, all the things I've talked about. And so if I'm anything right now, sitting in this chair, maybe 7 years on from that moment, I owe it to that decision. I owe it to that choice. And then the continual walk and continual loyalty to that.
Right.
So there's tons of temptation for me to like deviate from that path. I feel all kinds of pulls in all kinds of directions, right. And I have to constantly shut that down, turn that off, turn off the chatter, and just simplify back and say, who am I? I already know who I am. What are my values? What are my loyalties? I'm back in that. I need to go back to that.
Wow.
And it also sounds like, it's very organic. So it's not like you guys have like this structured plan of what it's going to look like when you guys get together. It just really sees what comes up and then take it from there.
Yeah.
And we do have to start wrapping up. But first of all, let me tell you, you got quite a few fans out there. Again, trying to keep up with some of the comments, but I know Leanne Watson, she loves you. She
What's
thinks
up,
you're
Leanne?
awesome. Eric Sorensen.
Eric Sorensen, the dude, the legend.
Right? He's all about you too. So, but thank you so much, everybody, for being on. One last time, how do we get a hold of you? Like, where do we go? Where do we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Hobo Moped. I think it's at Hobo Moped. Is it at Hobo?
At,
okay. Ampersand at Hobo Moped. That's me. I know Brad and Jeremy each have their own thing. Tyler Hunt as well. Derek. I don't remember. I should have wrote those down.
Oh, you're fine.
But Alpha Quorum. So we're on Instagram. I think it's just ampersand at Alpha Quorum. Facebook, Alpha Quorum. And then alphaquorum.com on the interwebs.
Yep, that's what you're on. Yeah, that's what it is.
And then we have our podcast, and I don't understand all that stuff, but I know you can travel through there, through space and time, and find our shows.
Yeah, they're all linked up to your Facebook, and then they're also, some of them are linked up to your Instagram. So if they find you, they'll be able to find all your sites.
I think so.
Yeah, so that'll be possible.
Yeah, I think you're also like on iPad or iTunes and Google Play. So you guys are out there and you have quite a few podcasts. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was so much fun. And I learned a lot, actually. Like, I really did. Like, it's really inspiring to be able to know that there's people out there. And I think it's important to stay in our lane, right? So it's like you guys are very clear what you guys want to do and you're staying in your lane. You're like, nope, you're not going to, push me here and there. And I love that.
I never thought of it that way, but that's true. Yeah. That's what we're doing.
And we're
not trying to be everything to everybody. No, this is just, we have an audience. We have like there is a very, very narrow and specific type of person. It's a man. And then we just feel like we have a message that resonates with all men. And that's what we're about. And
Jeremy mentioned that 15 and up. So this is not like also like a Boy Scout thing, right? So it's like you want men who are, already had some life experiences or that can learn from you guys. And so, yeah, again, if you have any other questions, you guys can always find Mike on Facebook.
What's coming up, Mike? What's next?
Yeah.
So
Come on, I want something fun now.
yeah. So the next thing will be in February. It's Chuck Norris's birthday. I think it's the 23rd. February 23rd is his birthday. And so, fabulously, I had mentioned this to somebody who has a personal contact through to get to Chuck Norris, and they said, "Yeah, maybe I'll make a phone call and see if I can, get this guy to show up at one of our events."
Oh wow, that's a big deal.
So we do it it's sort of like a tongue-in-cheek, right? It's just kind of an inside joke, and then we show Chuck Norris videos like we'll have a TV, and then there'll be like Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris videos playing. It's totally cool. We just want these things to be absolutely attractive, right? We want anybody to hear about any dude that hears about this is like, why wouldn't I go to that? And then we want you to come there and be like, wow, I've never been to a thing where just dudes sit around and they have real conversations about real shit. Like, we want that to be the vibe. We don't want, and I've only had this one time where like, guys will get together and they might run down their wives. They might kind of run down their girls. That's the kind of thing that there's no place for that.
Right.
We're not interested in that. And so there might be chances for sort of an older, wiser guy to sort of bump into that and kind of coach a younger guy. It doesn't have to be a younger guy. I just say that, but it may not be a younger guy.
Right.
But just these are like relationships of mentoring and coaching and counseling. We want guys to text each other. If you listen to our show, our most recent one, which we're going to pop out soon, we talk about how the guys who do our show, we have a bond and a group, and how individually and personally, some of us are, in our own lives and our own journeys, we're like benefiting just from the fact that there's other dudes that we know that we can count on, that have our back, our homies, like our bros. And there's a power in that. There's a power in that. And I would say to any guy who is not plugged in to 3 or 4 dudes that have his back, that would help him bury a body, that would he can sleep on their couch, no questions asked. Like, if you're living a life where you don't have 4 or 5 or 6 dudes that know almost everything about you and you about them, that's a hole. That's a hole. That's a big hole. It doesn't get filled by anything else. And when guys run around and they try to fill that hole with booze or pills or drugs or whatever, that's a deficit. That guy's broke. He's broke. He's broke off. And we want to bump into that guy.
Right. Wow, you guys are doing an amazing thing. I'll tell you that right now.
Thanks.
That's really good. That's really cool to hear. Wow.
That is awesome. And I think, is our time up, or am I wrapping up early? I don't even know. Oh, okay. One of the things that just came up, and that's honestly, again, from the woman's perspective, for me, I'm like the super mom, and I just want to hug everybody. And I'm just like, it melts my heart when I hear stories about, things like that. And there's like that joke, right, where the boyfriend calls up the girlfriend's friend and says, do you know where my girlfriend is? And it's like 2:00 in the morning. And the friend is like, oh yeah, she's sleeping on my couch. And he's like, liar, she's here with me. And so the girlfriend's like, what'd you do that for? And he's like, just to show.
Yeah. Check the alibi.
And, but on the one hand, it's funny because it's like, so now men know that girls will cover for each other. But it's also like we do, again, as women, we have our ride or dies, like truly have those people that our 3 a.m. calls. I don't care what time of day it is. I can call so-and-so and she'll be there for me.
Yeah.
And again, I do feel that men are missing that. And as much as we as spouses, significant others, partners, whatever it is, we want to be that for our men. Sometimes we don't have what it takes. We can't relate.
A woman can't do that. It's not their role.
No.
Shouldn't even try.
And so that's
and they
why
make a mistake when they do. So any woman listening, if you think that you want to slot into that role of like, I'll be this, mentor, but I'll be like the partner to my man and help him develop in certain ways, help him grow, help him develop it. That's not your job. You'll fail at that job, not because of any other reason, then you can't do that.
Right.
His programming doesn't allow him to learn that and to respect that and to respond in that way to a woman, because tribally and socially and developmentally, anthropologically, he's only learned that from another man.
And also, like, to wrap it up from the woman's perspective, it's like, understand that this is not about you. It's not against you.
Yeah, good point.
It's like our role.
It's not a dig.
Right. No, it's not. Our role is to complement our spouse, is to be, and it's not to be the teacher, not to be the guide. right? Like we are there for better or worse, right? I'll pick you up and or whatever it is. I'll support you when you support me. That's the partnership of a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I think naturally we're going to learn from one another, but really to be that mentor, teacher, guide, that's not for us.
There's a whole confusion of that, these gender roles. That's a whole separate show, man. If you wanted to pick that topic up there's a whole another hour or 2 or 5.
We'll probably have
that
you come
topic.
back. But yeah, you know, but just to like really wrap it up and for women to not feel like, oh, these guys did it. No, seriously. It's like, and it's not like men against women. It's not women against men. It's just really us being honest with ourselves and saying, hey, this is not my job. This is not my purpose or my function within this relationship to teach my man, to fix my man.
For sure.
You know, so it's not a dig, you know, because I'm sure that there may be some backlash too, you know, on that. So that's why I want to be like perfectly clear that, you know what, it's like you guys are very clear that this is what you want. You want 15 and older men, you know, and you're here to provide like mutual mentorship. It seems like, you know, everybody's each other's teachers. And so it's a great thing. And so anybody who's interested in this, alphaquorum.com is probably your best bet at being able to find all of it.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much, Mike, for being on.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have you on again.
Thanks so much.